On Friday, January 28, 2022, at approximately 6:40 a.m., the Fern Hollow Bridge that allows Forbes Avenue traffic to pass uninterrupted through Frick Park in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, collapsed. As of the making of this video, the NTSB investigation is still ongoing, so anything related to the collapse itself will be sourced largely from their findings via the publicly available report, and thus will include little to no speculation. All source material, as always, will be linked in description. In my usual fashion, I've done a bit of my own homework in setting the stage pre-collapse, but the truly deep dive, even into the bridge's history, will have to wait until the full-length episode. Roughly 50 years old and fracture critical, the Fern Hollow Bridge connected Squirrel Hill and Oakland neighborhoods, carrying frequent passenger vehicle and bus traffic, with Port Authority public bus routes passing through dozens of times daily. This was also a popular route to reach downtown Pittsburgh. At 4 lanes wide with a sidewalk on either side, the bridge passed through Frick Park directly over Tranquil Trail, a forested bike and footpath in the ravine, and nearby to a dog park and children's playground. Carrying Forbes Avenue traffic across the northeast side of Frick Park at what appeared to be a speed limit of 35 miles per hour, the bridge was 447 feet long, 60 feet wide, and about 100 feet high above the lowest point in the ravine. At 3 spans total, unweathered steel forming a continuous K-frame comprised the bridge's structure. It was relatively short as it only needed to cross about a third the width of the park, the remainder of Forbes Ave within Frick Park at relative street level. Like a 3-legged stool, fracture-critical bridges are those with non-redundancy in members under load, meaning if one member in tension fails, it's likely that a major portion or the entire structure will then completely collapse. The other incredibly unsettling nature of fracture-critical events, like we've seen in the past, say, with the original I-35 bridge in Minneapolis, is just how quickly disintegration will follow once any of those primary members fail. It's instant. Regardless of cause, though, it is this criticality, this vulnerability, especially in older bridges like the Fern Hollow Bridge, that's top of mind amongst many engineers in events like these. So, aside from the fact that it was fracture critical, what else do we know? Well, speculation is just not my thing, so if that's what you came here for, you'll leave mostly disappointed. The NTSB was on scene by early evening that same day, based on their Twitter feed and reports by the Associated Press. According to the NTSB, whose preliminary findings also come with the caveat of subject to change and may contain errors, at the time of collapse there was 1 articulated bus of the Port Authority and 4 passenger vehicles occupying the bridge deck. Still relatively dark at this early hour, a 5th passenger vehicle drove off the East Bridge abutment, soon after collapse once the deck had pulled away, and this vehicle came to rest on its roof. Initial investigations pointed crucially to the collapse initiating at the west end of the bridge, followed by the remaining structure. Updated as of May 5, footage obtained by the NTSB from that bus you see pictured caught in the collapse confirmed this suspicion of the west end collapsing initially, as viewed by the transit bus's forward and rear-facing cameras as it drove across. As of the NTSB's most recent May 5 update, there were 9 persons injured total, between those in vehicles and first responders. Thankfully, no deaths have been reported to this point. Independently verified by the Associated Press, there were rescuers rappelling down into the ravine, and a human chain was also formed by those who rushed to help after the collapse ensued. This allowed the extraction of occupants in those vehicles affected. Witnesses noted the rumbling sound of the deck crashing down into the ravine below, but then followed immediately by a loud, persistent hissing sound and distinct smell of natural gas. The bridge carried natural gas lines from one side of the ravine to the other, and those ruptured upon collapse. City officials were able to shut the gas supply off within a half hour, according to the AP. As of this writing, the NTSB has not found evidence of glaring deficiencies in K-frame superstructure types in general. In these investigations, it's common for the NTSB to be suspicious of these defects early on, so that other bridges around the U.S. of similar age and/or design don't pose further imminent risk to the public. In this instance, however, they aren't currently issuing any preliminary recommendations at this time. The bridge received an inspection that I could find as recently as September of 2017, and the Associated Press states one as recent as 2019. Either way, dating all the way back to 2011, it's been described as in poor condition, according to the U.S. Department of Transportation's National Bridge Inventory. It means little in the way of investigation, but one ironic aspect of this collapse. It took place just hours before the U.S. president visited Pittsburgh to rally support for a much-needed U.S. infrastructure bill. The total funding in this new law to be roughly $1 trillion, $1.6 billion of which earmarked specifically for Pennsylvania bridge maintenance. With bridges aging like this, along with historically deep-rooted cultural and systemic issues in the world of U.S. infrastructure and engineering, the infrastructure bill is obviously a step in the right direction, but funding is only half the battle. Maybe a topic for a separate video on its own. I don't know, let me know. The cleanup and removal appear to be complete as of April 2022, and the replacement project is already underway by the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation. Investigators documented both the evidence in place and, as they uncovered, crucial unexposed portions. Critical segments being retained for controlled testing and put under the microscope, so to speak, were hauled away to a Federal Highway Administration research center in McLean, Virginia, while a few others were taken directly to the NTSB's materials lab. The Federal Highway Administration will partner with the NTSB to conduct tests on bridge legs, girders, gusset plates, and weld quality. The Fern Hollow Bridge project, the replacement bridge, currently states an ending date of to be determined, but that it's actively underway. A collaborative project between the city of Pittsburgh, the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, and contracted to Swank Construction and HDR, with a budget of $25.3 million. These preliminary reports will be the closest thing to current events that I think Brick and Mortar will likely ever cover. They are not at the cost of in-depth features though, and once the investigation is concluded, there will likely be a follow-up episode of some sort. If the situation warrants it, a full-length episode in my typical fashion. So these preliminaries will be the rare instances where I suggest subscribing so that you don't miss the follow-up. And if you don't like these shorter format videos, feel free to just skip them. I mean, you can always just choose to not watch things you don't like. In fact, whenever I make these shorter ones, like the afterwards episodes, lessons learned, preliminaries, it's somewhat of a creative respite for me during what tends to be the much longer slog of researching any separate full-length features I happen to be working on. And safe to say, I'm in the middle of at least 1 or 2 full-length episodes at any given time. This format is on subjects that just happen to pique my interest during these larger projects, and took me on a tangent or down an entire rabbit hole. Yes, I sit and read a lot of PDFs. Riveting, I know. But I figure if it interests me this much, why not turn it into a video, and here we are. Technically, I've already published a few of those afterwards episodes. However, I guess I didn't realize just how distracted I was getting by delving into preliminary reports as well in my spare time. And investigations by the authorities like the one in this video can take quite a long time, sometimes years, in extreme cases decades. In my opinion, raising awareness of these situations, even early on, when done right, is just as important. I won't be doing step-by-step videos all along the way though, basically just one to raise awareness, then likely followed up by an in-depth feature. I don't follow a lot of content in this genre closely, so I don't know if these events are either popular or unpopular at the time. Some keen-eyed viewers may have noticed, videos I make tend to simply be what grab my interest for one reason or another, or otherwise brought to my attention by comments and other input from the amazing Brick and Mortar audience. I'm really kind of a nerd when it comes to the NTSB, independent journalism, and similar groups that act as sort of a check and balance third party. They fascinate me, especially when it pertains to safety in the workplace, transportation, engineering, or even just public safety in general. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, listening to me ramble, and thanks to all the Immortar supporters on Patreon, the channel members, the PayPal supporters, for helping to make videos like these possible. And special thanks to those top-tier Patreon supporters: Alex W., Andrew M., Jenny E., Jeremy H., Kenneth P., Lil Tony, Nathan F., and Paul R. And don't forget, your safety matters.